Hey everyone, it's Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show. And we're continuing with our theme of these elite commercial real estate brokers during this phase because it's a different market out there. And speaking of different markets, we're going to talk to a different broker with a different approach, and that's why he has exponential results.
Hi, this is Rod Santomassimo, and welcome to the Massimo Show. The objective of the Massimo Show is to share how you can maximize your personal, professional margin. That's right. Let's make more money in less time. Let's turn chaos into clarity, confusion into confidence, and income into real wealth. Along with sharing my insight on how I grew a multi-million-dollar professional business, we're going to bring you the expert advice from a variety of authors, consultants, and thought leaders who will provide the tools you need to maximize your own personal and professional margin. Welcome to the Massimo Show.
And I want to welcome Nikita. Nikita, what's your last name? Tell me.
Nikita Zhitov.
Nikita Zhitov. Well, Nikita, let's be transparent. Nikita, you're a client of the Massimo Group, and we've coached you and some of your team members. But more so, Nikita, I think, is the first guest we've ever had that actually lives near me in the Raleigh-Durham market. So we have the pleasure of actually visiting with him. But his story is amazing. So, Nikita, welcome to the Massimo Show. And let me ask, where did it all start? And we always ask this question for most of our guests, what were you like in high school? So, Nikita, where would you live in high school and what were you like?
Well, I started actually real estate investing my senior year in high school. It was a boarding school. It was a government school called North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics, but it's a boarding school. You can only get in there US junior and senior year. So my senior year, after my college apps were done, I was basically bored out of my mind, was researching what I want to do, and I stumbled upon this thing called real estate investing. So started doing a little bit researching, and before you know it, I caught the real estate bug, ended up buying my first 16-unit apartment building my senior year in high school. So you can imagine by the end of my first semester in college, although I had a full ride to go to college, by the end of my first semester, I was just obsessed with the sport of real estate acquisition and creative finance.
Well, hold on. Let's break that down, Nikita. Hold on. You bought a 16-unit apartment complex when you're a senior in high school. Did your dad just give you all the money, or how did that work out?
No, I had absolutely no money. I had about $500 saved up from lunch monies. So that was pretty much my starting budget to put earnest money on the first building. And
$500 of lunch money.
That's right.
So, Nikita, whatever happened to that 16-unit apartment complex?
I flipped it because, again, I didn't know what I was doing. I only knew how to spell real estate, R-E-A-L. That's pretty much all that I knew. And so I ended up flipping out of it shortly after I purchased it. But it gave me, and I think I've made like close to $50,000 on the deal. But going from $500 to $50,000 on the first deal, obviously, that changes your world tremendously. And then, I dropped out from school because I decided I was going to be a full-time real estate entrepreneur.
So you dropped out of college because you're in pursuit of a real estate career. So how did it go? Tell us about what was your experience?
I was a motivated buyer. I can tell you that. So I think I averaged during my early years, my late teens and early 20s, I probably averaged, a property a week.
Wait. Hold on. You were buying a property a week. And if that's true, where'd the money come from?
Well, that's the beauty about real estate investing. It's other people's money. It's seller financing. It's different creative strategies, private money, because I had no credit, neither good or bad. So I couldn't go to the bank. I had no family money also to my name because I'm first generation immigrant to America. So I didn't have any connections, so any network or resources or, family friendships that I could leverage. So I pretty much had to figure my way out in this game. But that's the beauty of real estate. I see the problem in real estate is most people know only one way to make money, buy low, sell high. But real estate offers thousands of tools, literally thousands of tools that you can use to structure deals creatively. And some sophisticated people know, a couple of tools like options and lease options and homeowner financing and then terminal exchanges. But the real estate industry, again, offers about 1,000 different tools out there, such as all-inclusive trust deeds, rep notes, substitution of collateral. I mean, There's people know about 1031 exchange, but there's 1033 exchange, there's 731 exchange, there's 421 exchange.
Hold on, Nikita. I got to stop you there because you are this encyclopedia of real estate investing. And there are people listening to this right now who've been in real estate for decades who are making a good living by saying, what the heck is that guy talking about? So the key to this is, of course, you have intellectual curiosity. So you educate yourself on all these different ways and approaches to go out and acquire and transact in commercial real estate. So here's the question. Where does all this curiosity come from? How did you learn all this and why? Tell me that. What drove it?
Well, I guess, because I come from a humble background, I guess it's just desire to achieve like American dream, right? I see what other people have and you figure out a way how you can get to the same level and be like, somebody who's better than you. But the reason I was mentioning all these different tools is just to emphasize why education such as Massimo Group offers is so important. Because even if you pick up just one new idea, right? I buy a $10 million shopping center. I'm 99% there. I've thought about everything there is to know, but I make a 1% mistake. What does it cost me? It's $100,000 of $10 million, right?
Right.
I'm 99% there. I've thought of everything there is to know, but I make 1% mistake. It costs me $100,000. So I don't care if Massimo Group costs 20 or 30 or whatever, how much it costs, $1,000. If I can learn one thing that can save me that 1%, it just paid for itself many times over.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate the testimonial there. But let's do this. We're going to take a quick break because, folks, you're not going to miss the background of Nikita and even the experiences he's had because it's been highs and lows. And you've got to hear this story and realize how incredible a success this is. We'll be back in a minute with the Massimo Show. Hey everyone, this is Rod Santomassimo, and I hope you're enjoying this episode, which is focused on growing your commercial real estate business. Now, speaking of growing your commercial real estate business, did you know that the Massimo Group has worked with thousands of your commercial real estate peers over the last decade plus? And yeah, our clients consistently out-earn their peers by 7x. In fact, last year, our clients earned over $412 million in commissions and fees. Want to learn more? Check us out at massimo-group.com. That's massimo-group.com and schedule a free strategy session today. Everyone, we're back with Nikita and the Massimo Show. And you've heard, if you've been listening and paying attention, hopefully taking notes, this dude knows more than most of the guests I've ever had in the show in regards to commercial real estate. Where did it come from? How did it work? So Nikita, you said you were an immigrant living the American dream. Where were you born? And when did you come to the United States?
I came to the United States at the age of 14, originally born in Russia. Pretty much grew up there at the age of 14. My family immigrated to the United States, 9th grader in high school. So I had to learn English pretty much from scratch and figure my way around.
Okay, so folks, I want you to think about this. He immigrates from Russia. He comes to the United States. He knows no English. And within 2 or 3 years, he's already bought his first property. That's the important lesson so far. Okay, so let's move forward now. You're buying properties. You're buying at a velocity of one a week. You're building your portfolio. How's life? And then, by the way, what years are you?
So he came to America year 2000. Graduated high school in 2004. That's when I bought the first building. So 2004, that's when I started my real estate career.
Okay, so we got an event coming up in the next 4 years we all know about. So
that's right. It was a big recession.
So tell us about from 2005, 6 on to the next 5 or 6 years. What was your experience in buying and then selling the cycle?
Well, early on in my career, I read a biography of one real estate developer from New York City. Last name Hensley. I don't remember his first name. He basically also was an immigrant, had come from humble background. And he started out by just working in the mailer room at some real estate firm and then ended up being a broker and then flipping his first houses. And fast forward, long story short, he ends up buying Empire State Building, right? So what intrigued me about his story, he said, I always like the idea of a bunch of people go to work, they get college education, they have different jobs, they pay expenses so that at the end of the month, they all get together and they put a portion of their income to one common pot of money and they give that pot of money to me so that I can make a mortgage payment on my apartment building. And that really intrigued me. I said, you know what? I like the idea of a bunch of people getting together and pinching in to one big pot of money so they can make my mortgage payment to my apartment building or my shopping center or my office building. So that's, I think, what attracted me to this business, that using leverage, you essentially have your tenants buying your buildings for you.
Yeah. And that was Helmsley Spears was the company that bought the Empire State Building. So you're buying these buildings, 2008's coming towards you. What's happening now?
So, yeah, again, unfortunately, because everything was brand new to me, I thought I was, again, living American dream, had about 40 properties. I was buying and selling properties, but long-term properties I've accumulated in the portfolio was about 40 buildings. I think I was around 23 years old, right in the middle of the recession. And just because I missed college years. So most of my sphere of influence at the time was older guys in their 50s and 60s. So I thought, you know what, I need to catch up on the college years and all the parties that most people have in college that I never had. So I went out and I did what I thought most college kids do. I buy a $300,000 Aston Martin, I buy a 1,000-acre hunting lodge, and just started living the high life and partying pretty much Monday through Sunday during the time when I should be really watching after my real estate portfolio. So I just lost focus and direction, distanced myself from my mentors and surrounded myself with a bunch of losers, basically peers. And my life went downhill very, very quickly. So in about a 2-year period, I ended up losing everything I've accumulated. And I went back to what I started living off, $100 a week lunch allowance from my parents. And it was a very humbling experience. And I'm glad I had it early on in my career so that it's adjusted how I do business now. So at that time, I got my broker's license because now I had all this knowledge.
How old are you when you hit rock bottom? How old are you?
Like 24, I think. Yeah, 24.
Think about that, folks. Hitting rock bottom at 24 years old.
Yeah, I had over 7 figures in deficiency judgments. And it was just starting from ground zero is a perfect place to start. You got a clean sheet of paper to write a story. But starting 7 figures upside down is a pretty difficult place to work your way out of, especially banks now not lending you money. Your investors don't really have confidence in you because, you just lost money in a bunch of deals. So, but I had all this knowledge, how to make money in real estate. So that's when I got my broker's license. And I actually had it a few years prior to that, but I didn't practice brokerage. But that's when I started doing basically commercial brokerage in 2009. And for 3 years, I just did brokerage work just to pay off all the, creditors, make sure everybody who ever invested with me made whole. And so that I can get back to the ground zero, to a clean sheet of paper. And I got there by 2013. So it took me about 3 years to work off all the losses. And in 2013, I said, okay, commercial brokerage is a great business to be in. You can make $500,000 to $1 million easily if you're a decent broker. But the only way to build wealth over time is if you hold assets over an extended period of time and you acquire buildings and assets that you're going to hold on to, and eventually they're going to be paid off. But again, I still had a bad taste in my mouth at the time from what happened during the recession. So instead of going and buying whole properties, I was operating more on a cash basis transactions. I was developing subdivisions. If I was building something from ground up, like student housing, apartment buildings, it would be merchant built where I would build it and sell it. I was not holding on to it. I wanted to make sure that I get my profit quickly before something else happens and I lose it all. And so I operated in that mindset for about 5 or 6 years. I was basically a real estate developer doing build-to-suit deals for retail tenants, developing, subdivisions, selling lots to builders and things like that. And in the meantime, I was doing brokerage as well, to brokering transactions, again, cash transactions. And I have my brokerage firm, I'm broker in charge of it. And then by 2018, I realized that, okay, again, cash profits are great, but you pay, ordinary income tax on it. To build wealth, you have to own properties over an extended period of time. So that's when I started shifting focus away from development onto long-term hold. And that's
okay. We're going to take a short break, folks. So you've heard this journey, this roller coaster, but you got to see where he's going next. And I think that's really the most impressive part of all the experiences he's had, or the lessons he's learned, but where he's going now. So when we get back in our last session with Nikita, he's going to share with you exactly what he's doing now, how he's building an enterprise with himself and his team members, and where he sees the market going. We'll be right back with The Massimo Show. Hey everyone, it's Rod Santomassimo with The Massimo Show, and I hope you're enjoying this episode. But I also want to give you the opportunity to learn more. And how? Well, by checking out my latest book, Knowing Isn't Doing. When this book came out and launched, it became the number one book in the country. That's right, the number one sales book in the country on Amazon.com. And in that book, I outline the Massimo methodologies that will help you build the business and the life you've always desired. Check it out at knowingisn'tdoing.com or Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or your favorite bookstore. Hey, folks, we are back with the Massimo Show, and you've got to be blown away, or maybe you're dead if you're not, because Nikita is sharing you so much experience and success, and yes, failure in our few minutes together. So now we're going to catch up and see what he's building and where he's growing from here. So, Nikita, I know you as a broker in charge of City Plat Commercial, which is a brokerage entity in Raleigh-Durham marketplace with a bunch of young guys who work their butts off. How did you create your company? And it's different. Can you share us why it's different? Can you go ahead and elaborate on that?
Yes. So City Plat is my company. We operate as a brokerage firm, but really most of the transactions we do is we buy our own listings, right? Or we broker our own deals. For example, we have a property management division, but it doesn't take third-party business. It only manages our own assets, right? And the leasing team primarily focused on leasing our own assets, right? The land team primarily focused on finding land and projects for us to do. So, and you're right, we have mostly a very young office, and it was deliberate. We didn't want to take a lot of experienced brokers on board because we didn't want to spend time retraining them. It's easier to take somebody fresh who have zero experience in commercial real estate and train them exactly the way you believe the business should be done. And also one thing unique about City Plat is that we offer every broker opportunity to roll in their commissions into the deal and get a piece of, because let's say you're 22 years old and you're brand new to the industry, you don't have, millions of dollars available for down payment or credit to be able to go and borrow $5 million to buy a shopping center. But you can find a deal. And if you find a deal, you can get paid, let's say, a 3% commission. Well, that 3% commission equates to a 10% of your down payment. So you can earn yourself a 10% stake in the deal if you find a deal that we end up buying. So that's also creates an opportunity that otherwise is not available. I'm not aware of any other firms who do that, who offer their brokers opportunities to roll fees into the deal.
So how many guys do you have in your team?
We got about 20 guys, so about 10 total staff. About 10 is support staff, and about 10 or 11 full-time brokers.
And what does success look like for someone that comes to your firm? Do you have a vision of where they will be at a certain period of time based on your model?
Yes. So our goal is actually we want to make sure that every person who works for our firm becomes a millionaire, like on paper, doesn't have to be cash, but net worth in excess of $1 million, ideally within 3 years or less. And we lay out a game plan for them to get there. So for some people, we have to readjust it, make it over 5 years, but the goal is to try to get there in 3.
Cheese and crackers. We start this conversation offline, and you shared me a Buffett quote. Can you share that quote and tell us how you have responded to that?
Okay, so the quote that I used, that Rod is referring to, is be greedy when everyone is fearful and be fearful when everyone is greedy. Well, some certain asset classes trading at historically low compressed cap rates right now, such as the multifamily trading sub 4 caps. When I see mobile home parks trading at 5 caps and industrial 1970s sheet metal, low ceiling industrial buildings trading at $300 a square foot, something is just not right about this. At the same time, retail kind of got a black eye because of a pandemic in the last few years. But the retail is usually better quality building, better quality materials, glass, brick, better location, higher traffic count, better visibility, exposure, all of those things. But because of the perceived negative about retail, it's trading for $50 and $70 a square foot in some markets, versus where industrial used to trade. And the industrial is trading at $200 a square foot, where retail used to trade. So we not even try to compete on apartments. I mean, we got some apartments we were able to pick up last year, but we pretty much focusing this year for the next few years. We're putting heavy emphasis on acquiring a lot of retail and small bay industrial if we can find it, but mostly retail is our focus.
So be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. I love that. And of course, that was Warren Buffett, not Jimmy Buffett that we were talking about. So we should clarify that quote. Nikita, so what's next for you? What's your vision of City Plat and where's it growing?
We're looking to grow right now. We have about $150 million of assets under management and management ownership, but our goal is to grow to about $1 billion worth of product, primarily consistent of like grocery anchored centers and retail space over the next 3 years. So we're looking to grow pretty aggressively, acquiring, I think we have to average around $250 million a year in acquisitions for the next 3 years to hit this goal.
Well, there you go, folks. Russian immigrant, real estate entrepreneur, learn the lessons of the failures of the bus, but then picking up right up like the Phoenix and now growing beyond what is, for most folks, even conceivable. He's doing it all. And I can't wait to see what he does over the next 3 years, 5 years, and 30 years. Nikita, I can't thank you enough for being part of the Massimo Show.
Thank you, Rod. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. You have my contact information. Feel free to share it with anybody who wants to reach out. Like Rod, I wrote a book on commercial real estate. So, feel free. Anybody.
Nikita, what's the name of that book?
It's called Expandability of Investment Real Estate.
I have it. Expandability of Investment Real Estate. Excellent book. Excellent book. Yes.
A guide to uncovering hidden cash flows and equities hidden in plain sight. Basically, how you can take a normal building and squeeze out extra juice out of it, for maximize your NOI and cash flow.
Folks, it's required reading again. Expandability of Investment Real Estate. Okay, guys, you've heard it here. Now, like everything else, he has given you a lot of information. And to me, saying, how could I be like that? Well, like he said, he studies real estate, he learns the alternatives, and he applies them. So apply what you learned today and grow from there. Until next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with The Massimo Show.
I want to thank you for listening to this version of The Massimo Show. And please, please go out and share this with your friends, your colleagues. Heck, share it with your dog. Just share it. And more importantly, just give me some feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. We all grow from understanding what our audience wants to hear. So until next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with The Massimo Show.